In this section, we're going to learn about graphing linear inequalities. So here's kind of the steps that I would look for. Essentially, you want to just graph as normal. Treat this like an equal sign. There are times you need to solve and get y by itself, but in this case, y is already by itself. So we're just going to graph it as normal. I see a -1 here, so we're going to start at -1. I'm gonna do the best I can here, kind of freehanding it. So we got start at -1. I'm gonna use my slope. In this case, there's a 1 here, or 1 over 1. So I'm just gonna go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Best I can here on this, using this here tool. But you get the idea. You can also reverse it, go down to the left. I'm gonna recommend that you guys try to fill up the entire graph. That usually makes it a little bit easier to find your answers, especially in the next part. All right. So this is our line here. Now, before I start connecting the dots, I want to be aware of that we have an inequality symbol, just like we saw when we graphed inequalities when we were solving. You had like an open circle or a closed circle. In this case, we're either going to have a dotted line or a solid line. Basically, if you see a line underneath it, then you're going to have a solid line because it's equal to. You're going to have a dotted or a dashed line if you don't see that line, if it's not equal to. In this case, we see the line, so I'm going to draw a solid line through this here. So let me just quickly draw my line. So something like this here. And again, try to fill up the whole graph. The other layer of this is we're going to shade above or below. All right, so depends on your symbol, whether it's y less than or y greater than. In this case, when you have a less than or less than or equal to, you shade below because less than, below. Shade above, if you got y greater than or equal to, you're going to shade above, greater than, more than. In this case, we've got a less than or equal to, so we're going to shade below. So maybe I can grab a little highlighting tool here. So basically anything in this area here, I'm going to color that in. So the idea here is that anything in this area and beyond is a solution. If I pick any point in here, and you could check something, sometimes a nice point, just make it easy on yourself. Like, I don't know, like 3, 1, for example. So we have 3 and 1. I just want to see if this works. That's kind of our last step, is to check to see if it works. So go back to your inequality here. The y value would be a 1, since I'm testing this point. And then we got that less than or equal to, and then it'd be x, in this case 3 minus 1. And let's see here, we get 1 less than or equal to 3 minus 1 is a 2. And that's true, 1 is less than 2. So I picked this point that is right in here. So we're talking about 3, 1 is in that shaded region. And it worked, it's true. So that means it tells me any point in this area would be true. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, so let's go to the next side here. When solving an inequality, if you multiply or divide it by a negative number, flip the inequality. So we don't want to forget about those moves right there. So let's see. This one I do need to rearrange, so I'm going to start by minusing 2x on both sides. That gives me this here. Remember, the 12 and the 2x don't combine. I need to divide by -3, so these would cross out, give me y by itself. 12 divided by -3 is -4. -2 divided by -3 would just change to positive 2 over 3. And notice that my sign flipped. We divided by a negative, so now it is y greater than. So when I go to graph as normal, I'm going to start, in this case, at the -4. So I'm going to start down here at -4. Go up 2 over 3, so up 2 over 3. So on. Maybe even reverse it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. If you get a ruler, just make it your job even easier. Now, before I draw my line, I'm going to realize that it is just greater than. It does not have the equal to. So I'm going to do dashes. So like dotted, dash, whatever we call it. Just make sure it's got kind of this dashed idea. It's just a way to indicate that the answers on this line don't work. Okay, if it's on a solid line, it works. If it's on a dotted line, it does not work. Let's see, y is greater than, so I'm going to shade everything above. So I'm going to shade everything up here. You can go outside the graph, it's okay. Everything in here. And again, I could check for the sake of time. I'm not going to do it here, but like, well, let's try it real quick. Like an easy point would be like 0, 0. Make it easy on yourself. I don't need to pick like, -8 and -6 or something like that. Like I could test 0 and 0, which is in my shaded region. And I'm going to go back to the original just in case I make a mistake. So 2 times 0 minus 3 times 0. Is that less than 12? Well, this whole side would be just 0. So we have 0 less than 12, which is true. So 0, 0 is in this area. It worked out, so everything in this area works out. We also remember that we can have our HOIVUX, our horizontal and vertical lines. So there's just your reminders on those lines. Remember the horizontal, if you just have a y, it'll hit the y-axis. If you just have an x, it'll hit the x-axis. So in this case, on this example, y greater than or equal to -5, I notice there's no x, so I'm just going to go to -5 on the y-axis. Let's see here, it's going to be a solid line, and if it's just y, it's horizontal. So let me grab a little tool here. Let's just draw a horizontal line through here. So something like this here. And don't forget, we're going to shade. In this case, y is greater than, so everything bigger than -5 would be everything above. Okay. Any of these points in here. And that's kind of the cool thing about this too. It's like all of these answers work. Everything above. And I can get real up right close to the line and stuff too. But like every point is an answer here. Okay. As we go over here, we got x is less than 6. Maybe I'll just change all my colors here. So we just have x. It's the only time I go to the x-axis here. I'm going to start at 6 and draw a vertical line. The one thing I got to remind on this one though is it is a dotted line. So let me redo that real quick. Let's do a dotted line through 6, something like this here. And everything less than, so everything to the left in this case, because things like 4 and 2 are less than 6. So then I would just shade everything on this side here and be good to go. And that's all there is to it. So there's some practice on the next page that you could try out. Bring some questions into class, and we will go over it. Done and done.